Hello, and welcome to my channel. This is, I Can Do It. The goal is to share what I build with you. Might inspire you to build something on your own. I literally have no training doing this stuff, but I love to build things on my own, hence this is not intended as a training video. But if you want to see how I turn this into that, then stay tuned. Kindly give this a like, share and subscribe before you forget. I hope you enjoy this one. Let's get building. It all started with this empty storage space in our basement. We have one bedroom in the basement which I used as my office. But we needed a guest room, so I had to come up with something. What better way than to build something from scratch? This space has the plumbing and drainage for waste. There's a sump pump in the back there too, and all this stuff I shoved in the corner here used to be all over the place and taking up the whole space. I got these bins from Costco to pack up some of the stuff and tuck them away in this corner. And this is how the space looks from the other side of the room. A pretty good size, which was just wasted. In my opinion, that is. You might have a similar space in your home too. Just saying. Alright, after planning the layout and sketching things out, I picked up some 2x4 lumbar from Home Depot. Measured, cut them to size and started framing. I didn't have a miter saw at the time and had to pick one up from Lowe's for about $200. I must say it was definitely worth it. I will link one up from Amazon if anyone is interested. Pretty easy to use if you haven't used one before. When picking lumbar for this kind of project, or any project for that matter, just make sure they are as straight as possible. Some of these were not as straight and gave me a bit of a hard time. But hey, it worked out at the end of the day. I put 2 screws in each of the 2x4s on one side and same on the other. After marking and positioning the studs 16 inches apart, center to center. And just like that, one side framed and up it went. The room length here was just a little shy of 14 feet, pretty good space for an office. This was the first step with the actual build, and I was pretty excited at this point. Had no idea I would still be working at this for the next 3 or so months. I watched some YouTube videos and someone recommended this Hammershot 0.22 caliber single shot tool for shooting nails into the concrete floor. Picked one up from Home Depot for $34. It was just perfect for this and didn't break the bank. You can find one for the same price on Amazon. I will add a link if interested. Followed the manufacturer's instruction and basically just insert a single bullet at a time and hammer it down. Gotta make sure your eyes are protected though. Plus it's pretty loud, so protect your ears as well. On to the next bit of framing. These pipes were protruding into the space, so I had to frame around them but also make them accessible. The idea was to close up the top part and make the lower part some sort of closet space. That's where I ended up placing that decorative plant in the long run, but in the future, I may build a door to close it up or just buy a 5-drawer chest or something which would fit perfectly. Next, I moved on to building the TV and fireplace unit. To get the fireplace dimensions right, I had ordered one from Amazon a while back, and that's what's in the cardboard box here. And look who's here? My son decided to come give me a hand in his PJs. And by give me a hand I mean, play with the stud finder. Anyway, there's a lot of options for a fireplace on Amazon and some are pretty cheap. After reviewing a number of them, I settled on this one for $189. We'll link it in the description if you want to check it out. Time to cut some more lumbar to size for this TV unit build. I used pressure-treated lumbar for the sections that would be in contact with the concrete floor. Here is one side of the TV unit. Just basically two 2x4s and added blocks in the middle for support. Built the two pieces for the ends. Then another two frames in the middle to hold them together. Of course, I would go on to add a lot more pieces across to build out the support for the fireplace and the TV niche as well. But I was learning as I went along. At this point, I had watched a dozen YouTube videos on how to build a TV unit like this one. None was exactly like what I ended up with, but I definitely did learn from each one of them, and you can too. YouTube University, I call it. I didn't show you this at the beginning, but that is how I sketched out my design on the vapor barrier plastic, where I pictured the fireplace, the TV, the outlets, my wiring, and the closet. I knew I needed lights in the TV niche, so I would connect a 12-volt transformer to my light switch and run an 18-gauge wire from it, over the top of the door, through the studs to the niche. The layout was all sketched on the plastic, on the studs, and on the floor. Don't judge me. This is do-it-yourself. And there's the ram set to the rescue again. Thought I would get a shot here on how it works. So you basically load a nail, then a bullet, then hammer away. Like I said, it's a no-brainer, but make sure you read the manufacturer's guide as always. And there is the used cartridge. Then it's just a rinse and repeat process. Initially, I had thought to use some leftover tiles I had from another project, so I brought in a couple for measurements since I didn't want to do a lot of cutting. But I would later decide against that and just finished of the drywall and paint. That actually turned out great. Here, I put in a couple pieces of pressure-treated 2x4 for the base of the fireplace. I leveled them and screwed them in. I then unboxed the fireplace and sat it down to see how it would look. And my people decided to come say hi again. And looks like this was only a quick visit. No time to give Dad a hand. Next was the top of the fireplace. Same process and the build continues. Always making sure I used my level. I dry fitted the fireplace once again to make sure I don't end up taking things apart at a later time. Time to mount the TV brackets and find the proper placement. I had this 55-inch TV which doesn't work any longer but was perfect for testing. I used it for my measurements but ended up buying a 50-inch I found on sale. After a lot of measuring and back and forth, I found the right spot. What to keep in mind here is the drywall sizes I was going to use, and if I was going to tile, I had to keep that in mind as well, as that would decrease the space I was leaving for the size of the TV. Either way, it didn't matter in the long run for me as I went with the 50-inch TV instead. At this point, my framing was done. I had to start on the electrical work. I am no electrician, but I have put in a few lights in my house and have a fair bit of understanding. I would advise calling an expert if you are not comfortable doing this stuff. But with my little light fixture experience and a whole bunch of YouTube videos, I decided to tackle this. I had planned out what lights and outlets I was going to put in and where everything was going, so I got to work. I was going to daisy chain 6 pot lights, add an LED strip light for the TV unit niche, and extend it to the other niche, which I will show you later. I ran a few tests on the breaker box and confirmed that all 3 accessible gang boxes on this wall were on different breakers. And each of these breakers also didn't have too much load. I then decided to distribute my load by splitting it up to all 3. Reading up on the fireplace, I needed to put it on its own breaker. Luckily for me, the only outlet that was installed in this room already was a direct wire from the breaker box and had nothing else on it. So I used that for just the fireplace, and put the lights and the outlets on the other 2. Had it not been for that, I would have had to install a new circuit breaker and run a new wire all the way to the fireplace. If you want to do something like this, I would suggest doing your own research, but it is not that complicated. If you decide to do it yourself, just turn off the breaker to be safe. For the connection to my light switches, I opened the switch up on the other side of the wall and added a pigtail, put the wire caps back on and tucked everything in nicely. Here, I'm drilling holes in the studs to run my wire for the light switches and outlets. There are different types of these gang boxes. This type has nails that you just hammer into the studs. With the open walls, this was the way to go. If you are trying to put in a new switch or outlet in an already existing wall, there are other type with a clip and a screw which can lock in place behind the existing wall. And this is how my outlet's wiring looked at this point. I would later come back to nail in some plastic staples to get that loose wire firm against the stud. Here I was trying to get an idea of what's going on in the ceiling. Found this little trick on YouTube. You just turn on the flash on your phone camera and just do a 360 video recording inside the ceiling. I had already marked and cut one of the holes for the pot lights, and that's what I used. Then I went on to make the additional 5 holes for my lights and run my wire. I used a regular drill and this 4-inch hole saw bit I got from Amazon. We'll add a link in the description if you want to check it out. I had decided to add a door here to the remaining storage area. There is another door on the other side, so initially I was not going to put one in through the office. But I figured it would be a good idea. Found this door on sale at Menards. They actually have doors on sale in the back, and you may find a deal all the time. This one had been cut short and returned by another customer, but it would work perfectly for what I needed it, so I picked it up. And here is the installed door and the progress I had made at this point. Time to start installing some drywall. I decided to install them vertically because I had no help and didn't want to purchase a lift. I had installed the whole left side at this point. Installing the full sheets was easy. The cuts for the TV unit and the niches though took me a while. About 70% of the drywall done at this point. Next, I did the drywall on the TV unit build. This purple-colored drywall is water-resistant. I used this because the original idea was to tile the unit. Of course, I ended up painting it instead. And what you see there is the LED strip light. I cut top piece of drywall just about 3/4 of an inch short to make room for the strip light. I powered this with the 12 volts transformer switch. We'll add links to both the light and the switch if anyone is interested. And that TV unit is fully drywalled. Just had a little bit of drywalling left to do for this other niche I built here. I did another dry fit of the TV to make sure everything lines up. Everything's starting to come together at this point. Pretty exciting. Then came time to tape the drywall and patch to the screw holes. And yup, another helper came by with a broom. Not sure how that helps with the taping though, but he was definitely welcome. At least for this step in the process. I used different kinds of drywall tape. This one I have here has adhesive on the back which was easy to use. But it was relatively expensive. I later switched to the regular type which is applied with mud. The taping and mudding really gave me a run for my money. It was definitely an experience. I did learn from it quite a bit though. I'm sure I will do better next time, or at least will know what to expect now that I've done it once. I tried to get my buddy who has drywall experience to help, but he was tied up, so I had to crawl through it. But at the end of the day though, that's what this is about. I can do it. I decided to add this false ceiling, and my buddy Kojo from Expanse Art, who is an artist but also has some experience doing this, came to give me a hand. I will link his channel in the description if you want to check out some of his artwork. He actually suggested he could do this with styrofoam, and this was the first time he was going to try it out with styrofoam. So it was really an experiment, but turned out great. The whole thing was held together with drywall compound and some pieces of sticks. Once he was done with installing it, I gave it a few coats of the compound to level it all up and also make it paintable. I finally got to mudding the ceiling. This was definitely not exciting. But hey, it needed to be done if I was going to complete this project. At this point, I had decided against using tiles on the TV unit. So I had to apply a lot of mud to smoothen up the drywall and seal up all gaps and imperfections. I did several layers and got it to a good spot. But in hindsight, I think I could have made it better with another layer or two. Something to keep in mind. Once you prime and paint, you are bound to see more imperfections, so make sure you take your time when mudding. I added another LED strip light above the false ceiling. These lights are all 12 or 24 volts, so you need to get the transformer for them. We'll link this one up in the description. They all have pretty good adhesive in the back, so just peel and stick. And this is how it looked after installation. It has several modes, and I usually have it set on light blue or orange. It has an app to control it as well. This mode I was testing is like party mode or something. This is how I usually have it now when I'm working. Gives a nice glow. Sanding time. It was a home stretch at this point. There are a few videos you can watch on how to sand and prep drywall for painting. Not too much I can share here, but one thing I learned is, you have to sand lightly before you dig too much into the mud at the joints. I could almost see a light at the end of the tunnel at this point. This was the first coat of primer. I cut the corners first before rolling. Again, I tried to get my buddy who's a painter to help out here, but he was tied up. I wasn't sure I could do as good a job, but turns out I'm not a bad painter after all. Yep, I can do it. Gave it 2 coats of primer. I used the Promar 200 primer. This was a recommendation from a video I watched on drywall painting. Priming first with this before painting definitely came out nice, instead of just using paint and primer mix. I had this paint which was left over from painting our kitchen cabinets, so I decided to use it. It's called Evergreen Fog by Sherwin-Williams. I gave the TV unit 2 coats of this color as well, and I think it did turn out great. You be the judge. Now was time to put in some flooring. I was really feeling it at this point. Plus, we were having some guests over in a few days, so I needed to wrap this up so I could move my office over and get the other room set up for guests. Struggled a bit with this, but I managed to get it done. I did remove all the bumps on the floor first though from the drywall compound and vacuumed the floor pretty well. I used laminate because I had some of this product left over, so I didn't want to buy vinyl. One thing I should have done was to put a layer of underlayment even though this had padding already. But hey, we live to learn. This other product I'm using on the ceiling was only $12 for an 8 feet by 6 inches piece. Got it from Menards. Super cheap for what can be done with it. We'll link it in the description if I can find it. I also got this pine board from Menards. Just had to cut it to size, sand it lightly, and stain it for the niche. I had to cut out that hole to fit the outlet I installed there. Got these few other pieces of poplar wood which I installed with construction adhesive on the front of the board. And here was the final installation of the fireplace. Plugged it in on the outlet, I ran to the backside and just put in 4 screws to hold it in place. I built these acoustic panels a few years ago. Thought they would fit perfectly here, so I decided to hang one on each side of the TV unit. And boy, did that work out. Part of the design was to make this back wall an accent wall. Initially, I was going to use this nice black wallpaper I found in another video, but later came across these 3D panels. They have these on Amazon in different colors, but I chose to go with white. We'll add a link in description if you want to check it out. They are very lightweight and I just installed them with some construction adhesive. I decided to replace the existing door with this barn door to tie it all in. Thought it worked much better for the space. This door was a bit heavy, but nothing one person can't put together with a bit of determination. Assembly was pretty straightforward. And there you have it. 3 months of hard work. With a bit of determination, a few tools and a whole bunch of YouTube videos, I was able to make this wasted space usable. And that's what this channel is about. This is my very first video, and if you enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe and share to support my channel so I can work and share more projects like this. Remember, if I can do it, you can do it too. Until next time, take care my YouTube friends. Bye for now.